Number 1. The Problem. I am a little nervous telling this story. I think it is because, since it happened to me, that it is likely that it could have happened to other people too. So, if you have heard stories like this before, I apologize. I so far have not. About 5 years ago, I began having some problems. They are a bit embarrassing to describe. And in fact, when they started, I was too scared to tell anyone about them. And that is likely why it took me so long to finally get help for them. The first thing I remember was when I was lying in bed one evening. I had work the next day, but I was not particularly sleepy. But even when I didn't feel like I would fall asleep rather quickly, I would still at least try to. My job at the time required me to be mentally sharp, so I needed to get sleep. The first noise I heard is hard to describe, but I'm sure everyone hearing this will know what I mean. I heard a scuttling in my room. If you've ever pretended your hand was a spider, and your fingers click across the table or something, then you will know what sound I am talking about. And this seemed to be happening in my bedroom. Of course, I was alarmed, and I got up and turned on the lights. I thought that maybe a mouse, or a rat or something, had gotten into my apartment. However, I wasn't able to find anything. And when I laid back down, I didn't hear the noise again that night. I assumed afterward that it had been my imagination, or perhaps a loud animal outside. I didn't live in a top-floor apartment, but maybe the noise had been coming from the apartment above me. A couple nights later, it was a different noise. It sounded like thunder. I was a bit excited this time, because I really like thunderstorms. Also, I knew that if there was a thunderstorm, then I would be able to sleep better. I opened my eyes and looked out the window, waiting to see the outside being lit up by lightning. That never came. I kept hearing the thundering noise over and over again, but didn't see any lightning. I picked up my phone and looked at it. The weather report showed that it was clear that night, and there were no storms on the report for the next few days. Still, even though it was weird, I didn't give it a whole lot of thought. At this point, these were just really odd noises that didn't mean anything. It would be at least a month, or a month and a half, before things got a bit weirder. I was in the living room of my apartment reading, and I heard a door slam in my apartment. The only two doors in the apartment were the bathroom door and the bedroom door. So I got up and went to check on them. Both of the doors were wide open. I looked throughout the apartment, and I wasn't able to find anything. Leaving my bedroom and returning to the living room, I heard someone whisper in my ear, "You're looking in the wrong spot." I jumped and spun around, wondering how I could have missed someone who had been that close to me. But there was no one there. The sound of the whisper appeared to have been coming right from behind me, and I am sure that someone had whispered in my ear. Freaked out, I began to look around the apartment. I checked under my bed, in cabinets, just everywhere. Nothing. There was no one in my apartment at all. But this did not comfort me at all. If anything, it began to make me worry more. Over the next few weeks, I would continue to experience strange little events like that. I would hear people talking in other rooms, or behind my couch, or on my balcony, and every time I went to look and see who it might be, there was no one there. And like I mentioned before, at no time was any of these discoveries comforting. It would have been almost less scary, I began to believe, if I would have actually found someone in my home. My mind never went to thinking that my apartment was haunted, or anything like that. Most of all, I thought I was going crazy. But one of the last things anyone wants to admit to anyone is the idea that they might be going crazy. So as much as it bugged me, I continued to do my best to keep it to myself, rather than asking for help. Eventually, the burden of not knowing what had been going on with me began to wear on me deeply. It was too much stress, putting up with the increasing number of weird noises and voices and things that I was hearing around the house. I finally went to see a psychiatrist. I convinced myself that I worked hard, and I had a very good insurance plan. I might as well try and put it to good use. I am not going to go too deeply into explaining everything that happened with my psychiatric treatment. It's really not too interesting. I was put on many different antipsychotic pills, but none of them seemed to have any effect at all on what was happening. After a long time of being treated for things, but having no helpful effect, I was sent to see a neurologist. It turned out, after CAT scans and MRIs, that I had a brain tumor that had recently likely been expanding in size. I wasn't relieved to know that, but if it could have been the reason I had been hearing things, I was happy to maybe have finally found a cause for it. The doctors, however, said it was actually really rare for a brain tumor to cause auditory hallucinations. They normally would cause visual hallucinations or tactile. It could happen to me where it was situated in my right hemisphere temporal lobe, but it was rare. Not only that, but generally when someone is suffering auditory hallucinations due to a tumor, antipsychotic medications were known to help, whereas me taking them never did. Receiving treatment for the tumor was hard, and throughout the entire thing, I kept on having auditory hallucinations. My friends and my co-workers knew about this, and they were all really supportive of me, and that helped. So this one night, I was feeling extremely tired, and I decided to go to bed early. I had turned out all the lights, got curled up in bed, and tried to go to sleep. I was hoping for a nice night, without any voices or anything like that. Well, tough luck for me. As I was laying in bed, I heard some noises. It was like a really simple noise, like a key being put in a lock. And then I heard the door to my apartment opening up. Groaning, I really did my best to try and shut the sound out, something that I knew I was not able to do. I heard other rustling sounds, moving sounds, and even walking sounds. It sounded like someone had come into my apartment and was searching for something. Now normally, this sort of thing would alarm anyone. However, it didn't bother me. I chalked all the noise up to having to do with the hallucinations. So I just listened as it sounded like someone kept walking around my apartment, opening cabinets and things like that. Eventually, I successfully was able to drift off to sleep. Now, I'm sure you might see where this was going. When I woke up in the morning and left my bedroom, tons of things were missing from my house. My television, my stereo, my gaming consoles, silverware. With absolute horror, I realized that when I had been hearing someone invading my apartment, there had actually been someone invading my apartment. And the entire time, I just lay in bed while it was happening. It wasn't until the police arrived, when they asked me a question, that made me think about what had happened. There hadn't been any sign of a break-in, and I was positively sure that I had locked my door that evening. That was when I remembered that I had heard what sounded like a key in the lock, before I heard any other sounds in the apartment. Someone had broken into my apartment and stolen stuff, but they had done it with a key to the apartment. Well, I only knew of one key that was not on my key ring. I left a key at my parents' house in case I needed one, so I called them up and explained what had happened. Sure enough, they checked, and the key was missing from the drawer they had kept it in. It took a bit of looking around in order to figure out what had actually happened, though. I have a younger brother with a drug issue. He doesn't live with my parents, but he had visited them the night before. And while he was there, he took the key to my apartment. And then, knowing that I would likely think the break-in noises were just auditory hallucinations related to the tumor, he came and robbed my apartment. He sold many of my things and got drug money with it. Losing items is one thing. I had renter's insurance, so they were easy to replace. But knowing that my brother, drug problem or not, would break into my apartment and take advantage of a serious medical condition that I had in order to steal things for drug money, well, even now, I find myself having a bit of a problem finding words to describe how that feels. The hallucinations were always a bit terrifying. They became a bit more so when I realized they were connected to a tumor. But to think that someone I loved and cared about would take advantage of that to horrify me, and for drugs. Well, I'm sure some people would think I should have cut my brother out of my life for good for doing that. I didn't, but only if he agreed to get help for his issue. He went, and he tried, and he failed a few times. However, recently, he's been able to get better control of his issues. Now me, I eventually had to have the tumor removed. Brain surgery is 1,000,000 times scarier than anything I hear on horror channels. But I can't really convey that horror to you if you never go through it yourself, and I hope you never do. I will occasionally still get a hallucination here or there, but they are infrequent and do not stress me out at all anymore. Number 2. The Rumored Shooter. This story happened in early May, in Southern California, before the whole quarantine issue happened. I was still a senior in high school, and was riding my electric scooter to school. My friend, who I will refer to as Billy, was riding her bike not too far behind me. As soon as I reached the parking lot of my school, my math teacher ran up to me and urgently told me that the school was on lockdown and that I needed to get away. Just then I noticed that there were a bunch of students running away from the school. Now my school is right next to a small park. Usually that park is used for the weekly mile, and that park is right next to a bunch of markets lower down, and all of this is on a hill. North of my school is a Walmart, and this will become important later. Me and Billy traveled through the park, talking about what we thought was happening. Billy told me that as she almost got to school, she saw a bunch of cop cars heading up the hill. We noticed a small group of people running really fast, and we figured that they knew what was happening since they were in such a panic. We ran up to them and asked them what was going on. And one of the girls in the group said, through her gasps, that there was a shooter at the school. Me and my friend panicked and began to run away, and we got separated as we descended down the hill. The part I went down was really steep, so I had to leave my scooter behind. I didn't abandon it, I just left it on the hill, and started texting my family what was going on. A boy brought down my scooter and I rode home. During my ride, I realized how lucky I was that I didn't get to school earlier, as I might have gotten shot or would have to hide under a desk, texting my family that I loved them. When I got home, me and my mom instantly checked online to see what was going on. It turns out that there was only a guy at Walmart, not too far away from my school, who was waving a gun around in the parking lot, and that the whole shooter thing was false. I got pissed off, and considered not going to school after the lockdown was over. My mom said she didn't mind if I did that. I decided that I would go, though, because I was worried that I might have gotten a Saturday school if I didn't go. The rest of the day progressed as usual. There were just fewer students. Despite how annoyed I was with the whole incident, I am very grateful that there wasn't an actual shooting, that no one actually died. Number 3. Teddy Bear Head. In the fall of 2009, I packed up and moved from Birmingham, Alabama to Lafayette, Louisiana. Lafayette's metro area lies west of Baton Rouge, on the other side of the Atchafalaya Basin, along and to the south of I-10. This is true Cajun country. A Cajun is short for Acadian, the region of Canada from whence they originated. The whole entire area is officially referred to as Acadiana. This was my first time moving to a place with a very different landscape. I transferred from the pizza chain store in Birmingham to the one in Broussard, Louisiana. In just about a 20-minute ride from where I was renting a room in Lafayette. This area grows a lot of sugarcane and soybeans. Sky, as far as the eye can see. This was my first time out of the thick forest to the southeast. My delivery area stretched south along Highway 90, eastbound, down towards New Iberia, near a very small airport. I find that sentence funny. Mid-sentence I went over to the maps and tried to find the location of the teddy head. I found it and noted the dead fish in the recent image of the same little spot. It's a creepy little hairpin curve. One afternoon, I was on my way back to the store from a pizza delivery using Freeman Road, a country cut-through. To me, a wonderful treat. Instead of heavily congested suburbs of the greater Birmingham area, sugarcane fields and stands of live oak trees were the backdrop. To take the back roads in this new environment made every day a touristy vacation. So as I rounded the curve, I spotted a neatly decapitated teddy bear head lying in the dirt on the side of the road. Pizza drivers aren't supposed to waste any time on deliveries, even if they're on their way back. But I'm a human being first, and decapitated teddy bear heads on the side of the road just don't come along every day. I pulled over and got out and gave it a closer look, and then took a picture. Then I quickly got back into the car, absolutely marveling, wondering what sort of scenario could have resulted in such a thing. Something that appeared to have been thrown from a moving vehicle, given its just being right there, on the side of the road. And my first idea, was a family in a car, almost home from a very long drive, and the big sibling tears the head off the younger sibling's teddy bear in order to torture. The screaming and the crying, the harried parents, then, concerned with the imaginary, bigger sibling being a sociopath, fell into inevitable play. Teddy bear decapitating is pretty hardcore. Thank goodness I came up with a plausible explanation for the bear head that involves no violence, cruelty, or accidents. Where I saw that thing is close to the Acadania Regional Airport, and since I was on a back road, I was able to quickly provide my curious mind a palatable explanation. It was late the night before, and into the airport quietly landed a very nice private plane. It had a few pieces of cargo. Cut half an hour later to a speeding car along Freeman Road, having just made their pickup. Drugs, government secrets, maybe jewels. But there was something inside the teddy bear that some crooks couldn't wait to open. If I were a patrolman, I'd cite them immediately for littering. A gentleman places his contraband packaging in the trash can. I'll never know the story behind little Cabezito's demise. I feel rich in life having seen something like that. It's the explanations that you don't know, the scary scenarios that you come up in your mind Very often, they are much scarier than the explanations that are obvious. Hey y'all, Killer Orange Cat here. Now first I'm going to thank everyone for their patience during this whole week where I haven't really come out with new content. Although I'm not really going to talk about politics. The election was very almost hypnotic in a way, so it was really hard to do much of anything else while it was going on. But it's over, so now back to work. If you like this video, please let me know by hitting the like button. If you're not already subscribed to Killer Orange Cat, please feel free to hit the subscribe button and the bell below, or wait for the icon of Ichigo the cat that will appear at the end of this closing. Leave me a comment to let me know what you thought of the video, and consider sharing it with someone you think might enjoy it. And if you have an original story you'd like narrated on Killer Orange Cat, please send it to the address included in the description. And please, whatever you do, don't forget to make sure to check in your closet and check under your bed, because you never know where Killer Orange Cat might be hiding. Good night.